Hello, music fans. Welcome to my album release radar, where I'm going to talk about albums that are coming out in the fourth quarter of 2022 in the metal, rock, and prog genres that I plan on checking out. And there's, I think, 60 albums on my list, so I'm going to have to go pretty quickly so it's not a long video. Jumping right in with October 6th, the band Terra Maze is releasing Flight of the Wounded. This is progressive metal. It's their 10th album. I heard a couple singles from this release. They sounded great and right up my alley as a melodic, catchy, progressive metal band. I'm surprised I've never listened to a full album by this Australian band yet. I'm going to fix that the day this comes out. The guitars sound a bit like Periphery, but a bit less genty. Keyboards and guitar solos sound great and reminiscent of Dream Theater. The vocals are well executed, powerful, emotional, and melodic. On October 7th, we have a release from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard called Ice, Death, Planets, Lungs, Mushrooms, and Lava. A long title. It's a psychedelic rock band, but you never really know what genre they're going to put out. This is their 21st album. The first letter of each word lines up with the first letter in the 7 modes of the major scale: Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. I hope and expect each song starts with a different mode, but I don't know if that's true. I have no idea what genre to expect, other than when I heard Ice 5, which was a jazzy, funky, dancey song. But there could be anything on here, ranging from pop to rap to metal to psychedelic to electronic to prog. Whatever it is, I think it'll be great as usual for them. On the same day, we have the Lamb of Gods coming out with Omens. This is groove metal. Their 9th album should have some killer riffs and grooves as usual for them. Generally a pretty solid band. They never really disappoint, so it should be great. And I've heard 3 of the singles from it, and they're all great as well. Queensryche is releasing an album on the same day, Digital Noise Alliance. It's their 16th album. They're one of the originators of progressive metal way back in the 80s. Their discography is a little hit or miss, but I'm hoping this album will be a hit. I saw them live in concert and they kill it live. They have energy injected back into the band when Todd Latour joined on vocals after going through a bit of a slump on the later albums with Jeff Tate, who is also an amazing vocalist, but maybe just wasn't jiving with the band creatively. The single Behind the Walls is a great song, maybe the best Queensryche song I've heard since 1988's Operation Mindcrime, which is their classic masterpiece. On the same day, we have a release from Magna, who's releasing an album called Cartel. This is progressive rock. Their 15th album. They're a strange French progressive rock band that started way back in 1969. Released their first album in 1970. Weird and quirky sound. It falls into the microgenre that they arguably started called Zool. It's like their albums are rock operas, but they also created a fictional language called Kobean, in which most lyrics are sung. On the same day, October 7th, Counterparts is releasing a eulogy for those still here. This is metalcore. It's their 7th album. Heavy music, screaming, great riffs, great leads, breakdowns for fans of Devil Wears Prada. Also, October 7th is a busy day. Glass Hammer is releasing At the Gate. This is progressive rock, their 20th album. I heard this is their 3rd and final album of their Scalagrim trilogy, whatever that is. I have to be honest, I'm not super familiar with their work, but I think this would be for fans of bands like Wobbler. October 7th, Ellison Soto is releasing Vacation in the Underworld. This is progressive metal with heavy metal, thrash metal, and hard rock influences. It's their first album. From the supergroup featuring David Ellison, formerly of Megadeth, on bass, and Jeff Scott Soto on vocals, who has worked with bands like Sons of Apollo, where he's currently still a member, and Yngwie Malmsteen's Rising Force. Also on October 7th, we have Marathon releasing Unseen Color. This is progressive metal with rock and pop influences. They're Norwegian. They don't seem to do any screaming from what I've heard so far. Their sound might be closer to the prog rock side than metal, actually. The song I heard was pretty poppy and catchy, and it reminded me of recent Leprous releases, so if you're a fan of newer Leprous, you might like this. More October 7th, Novelists are releasing Déjà Vu Première Partie. This is progressive metalcore or gent. It's really great guitar playing. It's kind of metalcore but has poppy hooks and modern production, powerful vocals with clean singing and screaming for fans of bands like Northlane. And the last one on October 7th is by the band Lost Society and is called If the Sky Came Down. And this is thrash metal with some metalcore and groove metal influences and is their 5th album. Whoa, look, my shirt just changed color. And now I'm on to talking about albums that are coming out October 12th. First, I'm going to talk about King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard releasing their album Laminated Denim. This is psychedelic rock and it will be their 22nd album. The album name is an anagram of another album they released earlier this year called Made in Timeland. And that album has their more electronic experimental stuff, so maybe this will be more like that, but who knows genre-wise with King Gizzard. On the 14th of October, we have Red Hot Chili Peppers releasing Return of the Dream Canteen. This is their 13th album and their 2nd album that they're releasing this year. They're kind of a funk rock band with alternative rock influences. Everybody knows Red Hot Chili Peppers, so they don't really need an introduction. This is the 2nd album after the return of their legendary guitarist John Frusciante. I wasn't blown away by their last album from earlier this year. I think it was okay, but didn't touch their earlier works like from the 90s and 2000s, like Stadium Arcadium, Californication. Hopefully this 2nd album of theirs this year will be even better than the first. Their first one was called Unlimited Love. I think this single, Eddie, is one of the best songs they've released in a while, and I love the guitar solo at the end. On the same day, we have Lorna Shore releasing Pain Remains. This is deathcore, and it's their 4th album. Will Ramos, one of the most intense, harsh vocalists of this decade. He has a lot of range in his higher shrieks, low gutturals, pig squeals, other general animal and monster noises that come out of his mouth. I expect some epic deathcore breakdowns, some slow down parts. It'll be a good time, but I think I know what to expect. I don't know if there will be many curveballs. On the same day, we also have Alter Bridge releasing Pawns and Kings. This is hard rock with heavy metal, alternative grunge, and progressive influences. Miles Kennedy is a legendary hard rock vocalist. He also played in Slash's backing band. Mark Tremonti, legendary guitarist from Creed. Together with their bandmates, they make great rock music, melodic, epic, nothing too offensive sounding on here. It's quite accessible. Some of it sounds a little progressive at times, no screaming or anything, but there's interesting composition for music fans. It's not just straightforward, boring pop rock. A couple more to talk about on October 14th. One of them is by Todd Rundgren, and it's called Space Force. This is rock with electronic, pop, progressive, and psychedelic influences. It's his 26th album, so he's been busy. It'll feature collaborations with a lot of guests like Rivers Cuomo from Weezer, Adrian Belew, who played with Zappa and King Crimson, and his own solo work, various other projects. Cheap Trick's Rick Nielsen and the virtuosic guitarist Steve Vai all make appearances here. And the last one from October 14th is Brian Eno with Forever and Ever No More. This is ambient and it's his 29th album. So he's done 29 albums, and I'm actually too afraid that I'm going to end up liking this because I don't want to have to go back and listen to them all. The singles sound like a nice soft ambient song. On October 15th, we have Dockers Guild releasing The Mystic Technocracy Season 2, The Age of Entropy. This is a progressive metal rock opera. It's their 3rd album. Sounds like something for fans of Ayreon. Then over on the 21st of October, we have a lot of stuff coming out. Serge Tankian releasing Perplexities, an EP. He's the former current lead singer of System of a Down, although they don't really make new music very often anymore. They did do a couple singles recently, but haven't made an album in well over a decade. He makes a wide variety of solo music, though, ranging from rock to classical to metal to jazz to electronic. I'm not sure what this release has in store, but I'm looking forward to it. I heard the song Pop Imperialism. It was an experimental electronic art rock song reminiscent of Radiohead for fans of stuff like that, or Thomas Giles. So if you check it out if you like that kind of music, with obviously the immediately recognizable vocals of Surge from System of a Down. On the same day, we have Arena releasing The Theory of Molecular Inheritance. This is progressive rock. It's their 10th album. This release has Damian Wilson on vocals for the first time. His vocals are usually amazing. They sound great on the single I heard. He sang on Arion albums and Star One projects, as well as in the band's Headspace, Threshold, and more. On the same day, Architects is releasing The Classic Symptoms of a Broken Spirit. This is metalcore with alternative, progressive pop, and post-hardcore influences. Their 10th album. They used to be a great metalcore band, but I haven't really liked what they've been doing recently as much. I'm still going to check this out, and I'm hoping for something with less pop, radio rock influence, and more metalcore, prog, mathcore, gent influences. October 21st, Crooked Royals is releasing Quarter Life Daydream. This is progressive metalcore with post-hardcore influences. They're on Periphery's record label, 3 Dot Recordings. I trust Periphery's taste. There's great guitar playing on the single I heard called Glass Hands. Avantasia is also releasing A Paranormal Evening with the Moonflower Society. This is symphonic power metal with progressive and hard rock influences. It's a metal rock opera like Arion, but a bit more on the power metal side and less on the prog. For fans of Arion, Star One, Nightwish, Blind Guardian, Hammerfall, that kind of music. And then we also have on that same day ORK releasing Screamnasium. This is progressive metal. It's their 4th album, featuring former Porcupine Tree bassist Colin Edwin and former King Crimson drummer Pat Mastelotto. It's unfortunate that Colin Edwin didn't feature on the new Porcupine Tree, but I'm looking forward to what he lays down on this album. And we have Avatarium, another band that starts with Ava, releasing their album Death Wears Your Sting. This is progressive rock with doom metal and heavy metal influences, their 5th album. I've never listened to an album by this Swedish progressive rock and doom metal band, but I try to check out any release related to progressive rock, so I put it on my radar. It features Jenny Ann Smith on vocals, and it's always good to hear some female vocals in progressive music. The band was founded by the Candlemass songwriter Leif Edling, but he is no longer part of the band. And then I'm going to check out some pop with one of the best-selling artists of these days. Taylor Swift is releasing Midnights on the 21st of October. You know, she's pop, she's got some country, folk, indie rock influences. Figured I'd check it out just since she's one of the biggest names in music, even though she's not usually my style. Arctic Monkeys are also releasing The Car that day. This is indie rock with psychedelic, alternative, and pop influences. I heard the single Body Paint. It wasn't really what I was expecting, in a good way though. It was different enough to capture my interest. I get the impression from the stuff that I've heard so far that they were just a bit of a basic band, but maybe there's more to them than I currently know, so I'm going to check this out. On October 24th, Galahad is releasing The Last Great Adventurer. This is progressive rock. They have a really confusing discography, so it's hard for me to say what album this is for them. Prog Archives lists this as their 15th album. Wikipedia says they have 14 tapes, 6 LPs, 10 studio CDs, 6 live CDs, and 5 EPs. So it seems like they release a bunch of different works in different formats. I've never listened to a full album of theirs, but it's on my radar because I check out any progressive music. October 28th, Devin Townsend's releasing Lightwork. This is progressive metal. It's his 21st album. It's one of my most anticipated album releases for the 4th quarter of 2022, along with releases from He Is Legend and King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Devin Townsend's one of the best singers in rock and metal world today. I love how he's just a shapeshifter when it comes to styles. This album is supposed to be one of his most accessible, so I expect some catchier poppier, more straightforward radio rock, whereas in the past he's done everything from extreme metal to progressive rock to ambient meditation music to country. So it'll be interesting to see how he sounds now. That same day, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard releasing their 5th album of the year called Changes. Their 23rd album overall. Who knows what to expect? Maybe psychedelic rock, who knows? Polyphia is also releasing Remember That You Will Die, progressive rock with math rock, electronic, and hip-hop influences. They're just such amazing, clean, and fast guitar playing here. Instrumental progressive rock, but they have a lot of influences from modern music like electronic, hip-hop. The song Playing God that they release has so much intense playing, it's just super impressive. The same day, Obsidious is releasing Iconic. This is technical progressive death metal. Their first album. It sounds like they're doing some cool technical music with this. Great vocals, clean singing, and some screams. Another debut album coming out on October 28th is Velcro Cranes with their album What If I Die? Also progressive metal, and it's the first album by this new Russian prog metal band. And then Dead Cross on the same day is releasing their album 2. This is hardcore punk with heavy metal and thrash metal influences. It's their second album, I guess that's why it's called 2. This is a supergroup with Mike Patton of Mr. Bungle and Faith No More on vocals, Dave Lombardo of Slayer on drums. Lombardo is keeping busy, also currently playing drums with Testament, Phantomas, where Mike Patton's also a member, Suicidal Tendencies, Mr. Bungle. Lots of bands there, and the Misfits. So he's keeping really busy. Fit for a King is also releasing The Hell We Create that day. This is metalcore, their 7th album. It's just catchy metalcore with some cool breakdowns. Probably nothing revolutionary, but still cool to check out. And The Gloom in the Corner is releasing Trinity. This is progressive metalcore gent with deathcore influences. Another catchy metalcore band with some low-tuned genty guitars. The vocals on the singles I heard so far sound impressive. Great singing and screaming, so I put it on my radar. Moving on to a different day, November 4th, Voivod releasing Ultraman EP. They're a progressive thrash metal band. They have some alternative avant-garde influences. Apparently this will be the theme song from the Ultraman TV series, plus some unreleased bonus live cuts. And another kind of interesting special release is The Pretty Reckless releasing Other Worlds. This will be comprised of acoustic recordings, unexpected covers, and other reimaginings. It's their 5th album. I don't know if it's technically an official album. Usually they're like a hard rock band with grunge and alternative and southern rock influences. This might be more of a chill acoustic version of that. Also November 4th, Disillusions releasing I Am. This is progressive metal with some melodic death metal influences. It sounds intense, heavy, and progressive based on the one single I heard so far called Am Abgrund. I haven't listened to anything else by this band yet, but I look forward to hearing it. November 4th, Dayseeker is releasing Dark Sun. This is post-hardcore with metalcore and pop influences. From the early singles I've heard here, the vocals sound really well done, excellent control, delivery, well written with catchy melodies and hooks. I've never listened to a full album by them, but look forward to it. Locura is releasing Distorted Truth, also November 4th. This is metalcore with death metal, thrash metal, hardcore influences, sounds intense and heavy, screaming vocals and singing. And The Offering is releasing Seeing the Elephant. This is progressive metalcore, kind of genty with some deathcore, heavy metal, power metal influences. It sounds really epic, well written and performed from the 2 singles I heard. Good vocal delivery, great guitar solos. Now over to November 11th, He Is Legend is releasing Endless Hallway. This is hard rock with metal, hardcore, alternative, and psychedelic influences. And this is one of, if not my most anticipated album of the quarter. I love everything He Is Legend has released throughout their career. They're a highly underrated band that deserves to be more popular. Their sound has evolved quite a bit over their career, from post-hardcore, metalcore beginnings to hard rock, heavy metal, to progressive, to experimental, to stoner rock, to alternative rock, psychedelic rock, and sludge metal, southern rock. So you put all those styles in a mixing pot, you can have the new He Is Legend sound. The same day, Zeke Sky is releasing Intergalactic Demon King. This is progressive metal. Sounds like Zeke can really shred. He plays a mean guitar. He writes cool prog metal music. In the music video, he's playing fast guitar parts while also singing. And if he can pull that off live, that's very impressive multitasking. The guitar playing reminds me of Protest the Hero and the Human Abstract, so check it out if you like that. Chelsea Grin's releasing Suffer in Hell on November 11th. This is deathcore, their 6th album, and apparently it'll be followed up by an album in 2023 called Suffer in Heaven, and they go together like a double album, but are released at different times. If you're a fan of Lorna Shore, brutal death growls, high shrieks and breakdowns, you'll like this. Epica's releasing the Alchemy Project EP on November 11th. This is symphonic metal. Features collaborative tracks with other artists like Flesh God Apocalypse, Bjorn Speed Strid from Soilwork, Tommy Karavik from Camelot, Phil Lanzin from Uriah Heep, and more for fans of bands like Arion and Nightwish. Kingsman is the next band I'm going to talk about. They're releasing Bones Don't Lie on November 11th. It's metalcore with deathcore influences. And I've never really listened to an album from this band, but I heard the single Dead Letter, and it's a powerful metal ballad that is a slow burn that builds up to some heavy, intense breakdown, so I became interested to hear more. Now we're looking at November 18th. We have Disturbed releasing Divisive, which is an interesting title for a Disturbed album. They're heavy metal with hard rock and alternative influences. This is their 8th album. I always liked this band back in the early 2000s, but I never really loved them. I have a feeling that's how I'll feel about this album. It'll probably be decent, but I won't love it. The vocals are always well executed here. Guitar riffs are groovy, songs are well produced, but it's a bit too close to radio rock for my taste. I think when their cover of Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel became their biggest hit, it left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, even though it's a really good execution of that. Really great vocals there. But I'll always appreciate the nostalgia and meme value of songs like Down with the Sickness. The same day we have Arc of Life releasing Don't Look Down. This is progressive rock. It's their 2nd album. This band features 2 members of Yes, John Davison on vocals, Billy Sherwood on bass and vocals. Kind of reminds me of the last 2 Yes albums from the one song I heard, especially their last one, The Quest. So if you like that album, I think you'll love this. I think I'll enjoy it, but I don't think it can touch the classic 70s or even 80s Yes. Threshold is releasing Dividing Lines on the 18th of November as well. This is progressive metal, their 12th album. How have I not heard this band? They started in 1988, put out their first album in the 90s, right up my alley. From hearing the one single, this would be for fans of Dream Theater, Pain of Salvation, Symphony X, bands that I love. Also on November 18th, Tala is releasing The Generation of Danger. This is metalcore with new metal and hardcore influences. The single Shaken opens with some heavy grindcore, mathcore sounding leads, harmonizing a semitone apart. After that, it's mostly groovy metalcore with new metal and hardcore influences, but it ends with a filthy slowdown breakdown. This band features Mike Portnoy's son Max on drums. The whole band does a great job. If you're a fan of bands like Slipknot, Linkin Park, but with a little hints of crazier stuff like Dillinger Escape Plan thrown in from time to time, you'll probably like this. And the same day we have Mythosphere releasing Pathological. This is progressive stoner doom metal. It's their debut album. This band features past and present members of Beelzefuzz, Fates Warning, and Pale Divine. Check it out if you like any of those bands. And last one from November 18th, The Interbeing is releasing Icon of the Hopeless. This is metalcore, their third album. Sounds like some good classic early 2000s metalcore. On to November 25th, we have Circles releasing The Stories We Are Afraid Of. This is progressive metal. It's an EP. I've never listened to this band, but it's prog metal, so I'm tuning in. Elders releasing Innate Passage, also on November 25th. This is psychedelic progressive stoner rock with doom metal influences. Their 7th album. I've only listened to a couple songs, but it sounds like if Mastodon and Baroness met Catatonia and Incubus. Now we're into December, the last month of the quarter. I've only really got 6 releases on my radar so far from December. Not very many bands release albums in December. But we've got one from NoFX called Double Album coming on December 2nd. This is punk rock. It's somewhere between skate punk, pop punk, melodic hardcore. It's their 15th album, and I've always liked everything I've heard by this band. But like I said with Disturbed, I was never in love with anything. They write catchy poppy skate punk that makes you feel like you should be playing a Tony Hawk video game, or if you played the game Punk-O-Matic way back in the day, it reminds me of that kind of sound, which is cool. That same day, December 2nd, we have Satyricon releasing their album Satyricon and Munch. This is an instrumental dark ambient black metal album with some classical influences. It's their 10th album, and it was made for an art exhibition with the art of Munch. I think it's pronounced Monk, spelled M-U-N-C-H. And I've already listened to this album without knowing much about the art. Even though it comes out in December, I think you can find it on YouTube already. I was expecting a black metal album, but I got something more like the album I heard earlier this year called The Others, Lustmore Deconstructed. I think it's dark ambient music, but it's also kind of unique in Satyricon's catalog, though I'm not really familiar with all their work, but I believe mostly they do black metal. But this album's so relaxing. It's still dark, it's ambient, but it still has that black metal influence, but there's classical in there and there's no vocals, so this might actually be something to help get people who don't like black metal vocals but want to hear that kind of dark atmosphere. It will be a good album for those people to listen to. December 9th, we have Afterlapse releasing Face the Storm. This is progressive metal, their debut album. They're a new Spanish prog metal band, and it's prog metal, so I'll check it out. I've heard one single and it was well done, melodic. The same day we have Rob Marotti releasing Epical. This is hard rock with progressive influences, their 5th album, and he's the former lead singer of Saga. On to December 16th, Blood Clot is releasing Souls. This is hardcore punk, their 3rd album. This band features current and former members of the Cro-Mags, Queens of the Stone Age, and Danzig. And last album on my radar so far is 21st of December, Weezer releasing the last installment in their Seasons collection called Seasons Winter. It's an EP, pop rock. It'll be kind of catchy, what you expect from Weezer. And that's all the albums that I'm planning to listen to right now in the 4th quarter. I'm sure like at least 20 more will pop up. I think I said 60 albums there. If I can find 20 more, it'll be 300 that I listen to this year if I find 20 more. Right now I'm sitting at 280 if I listen to all these, which will probably be a record for me in terms of how many I've listened to. But let me know if you think there's some others that I would like. I don't know how many more I can really fit into my schedule, but I'll see if I can. And stay tuned for my favorite album from each week if you want to hear my thoughts on most of these albums. I don't think I'll talk about every single one of them because some of them might just be kind of whatever, so, but I'll talk about the ones that I like on the channel. So hit that subscribe button, the usual YouTuber stuff, if you want to stay in the loop on what I think about these albums as they come out. Until then, peace out.